I have to say that I think AEW produced one of the easiest hours of television to watch. That pretty much flew by, and it was a pretty exciting show for the kickoff of AEW Rampage. What did you think about it?
I thought it was great. I think it's, like I was talking about yesterday, I think it's my favorite 1 hour show since ECW on TNN. I think, just looking at my recaps, I think I may have actually written more about this show than I did about Dynamite. Just because mainly because there was so much good that I loved in the opening match. But man, as far as a 1 hour show, this was a home run, a touchdown, a slam dunk, another sports euphemism.
Yeah, as far as what I wrote, I usually get about 2 pages an hour. So the AEW, the Dynamite, I wrote 4 pages, and for Rampage, I wrote 2 pages. So it worked out. But overall, I mean, this show flew by. I did watch it on the Fight feed, so I don't know if there's anything different when in regards to TNT. There probably wasn't. It was probably the same as always. The one thing that kind of stood out is they didn't really change much up about the look of the show. Other than they just kind of have the Rampage branded graphics everywhere, but the set was the same, which I mean is going to be pretty much every week because they're probably going to tape Rampage most weeks. They're not going to do Rampage live most weeks. So, yeah.
I think the goal is to do it live a lot of weeks. But yeah, you're right. There wasn't like anything greatly different, but I don't know. I like the little things, and everything, felt kind of fresh. There were little things to give Rampage sort of its own visual identity. Even just the small graphical differences, the different colors on the name chyrons, and like the distinctive figure, like that Rampage logo with it being, on the ring apron and the video wall. Like, I feel like, if Dynamite is supposed to be explosive, the Rampage is electric. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit different feel for the show. Like I said, it wasn't greatly different, but I thought it was, as far as, trying to make a show that you're taping with the same set look different, they did well.
Yes. There was one little glitch in the production. We'll talk about that, but other than that, I didn't really notice anything that stood out other than what they're kind of normally doing. One thing I did notice, Jericho's mic needs to be EQ'd better because he had tons of treble in his voice, but no bass in his voice. So.
Yeah, somebody pointed out, for a guy that's been the lead man of a touring band for 15 years, Jericho does not understand how microphones work.
Or they just EQ'd him really poorly, which is a possibility as well. All right, so before we get into this show, thanks for tuning into the That's Wrestling podcast. We do this show live over on YouTube and Twitch, so if you're listening to this as a podcast, head over to those channels. The links are in the show notes. Comments, question, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1, and you can follow Trae at Wrestleism. So, how's it going other than we talked 24 hours ago?
Oh, man. Not the first time. Hell, last time we talked like 10 minutes apart. No, man, I really enjoyed this show, and then I went back and rewatched, like, I just kind of had it on while I was thinking and writing my review, and it was just such a thoroughly enjoyable show, I thought. And then tonight got the other show been looking forward to, the New Japan show, so I'm having a good weekend.
Alrighty, let's get into the show here. We had Dasha was doing ring announcer duties, so I figured she'd be over on Spanish commentary. So I'm curious who's doing Spanish commentary for Rampage.
I do not know. Didn't even think about it. I did notice that she was the ring announcer. I thought that was I don't know, maybe I just thought maybe she's gonna be the ring announcer on the show instead of Justin Roberts, but maybe he just couldn't be there this week or something. I guess we'll find out going forward.
Yeah. So we kick off, as promised, with Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship. We did have Brian Hebner as the referee, so once again, he was in as the Impact representative of the Zebra variety. And one thing I noticed when they start standing facing each other in the standoff at the beginning, Christian is like 3 inches taller than Kenny Omega.
Christian is, I think, one of those guys that's bigger than you think he is.
Yes, and Omega is smaller than you think he is, I think. I mean, he is 6 feet tall, but, you know, still.
I've met him, and he was exactly the size that I thought he was.
So, go for it.
Did you notice the what they announced as the time limit for this match?
No, I did not.
It was 30 minutes, which I didn't catch it the first time either, but I caught it when I went back. And well, my first thought was, have no idea if it's ever been established that Impact title matches have a 30-minute time limit, but that's a question for another day. But the fact that they did that, I thought was just one more little thing, because we talked about when we previewed this yesterday, like, we didn't know what this finish was going to be, and it could have been anything. And I felt like that, if you noticed it, it planted in your mind the possibility of a time limit draw, which, you know, added another element to the whole thing. But yeah, that was just another thing that I caught.
I missed it because I did catch the women's match. They did it as TV time remaining. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's a world title match. That's 60 minutes, and you stick with it, or you put it up on YouTube afterwards. That's what you say. Yeah. Even though
I actually went back to check that after I noticed that. I don't know.
All right, so they start with a lockup, and at one point, Christian pushes Omega down, and he points at him with the finger gun, and then turns it up into a middle finger, which I thought was great. Yep. Omega hits a few strikes. Both of them slip out of each other's finishers. And then Omega runs around the ring, so it's the classic, unfortunately, Christian gave chase, and when he slides into the ring, Kenny was already on his feet, so he gets caught there. Omega slides to the outside, and Christian hits Omega with a dropkick when he tries to get back in. Christian goes up top, and Don Callis causes a distraction. Should say that Don Callis was at ringside, not on commentary. Were they were playing it up that he doesn't like one of the people who's on commentary.
No, Excalibur said, thank you, Mark Henry. You seem to be Don Callis repellent.
Then back into the ring, we get a few stomps from Omega, elbow drop for a 2 count, and then Omega is being really cocky, and Christian tries to pull an inside cradle when Omega bends down to try to pick him up. We have a bunch of kicks and stomps from Omega. They have a striking exchange, and Omega goes for a suplex, but Christian actually ends up hitting the suplex. Omega attacks the eyes. Christian gets set up on the top rope by Omega, and then Christian gets out with a sunset powerbomb. He hits like 20 closed fists in a row in the opposite corner. Omega fights out of a kill switch, hits a you can't escape for a 2 count.
You notice... maybe I just call it I don't know. It looked like Kenny spiked himself on the top of his head when he did that. And then he stood up and then he kind of fell into the ropes. But it was for just a second. He recovered and followed through, but I was a little bit concerned. I hope that he didn't hurt himself there.
No, I think Christian is probably one of his heavier opponents that he has dealt with, and I think just the rotation, he just flew way too fast and flung himself into the corner instead of landing before going up top, I think.
Okay, maybe so. That was That was a good concern just on the look of it.
Yeah, I think he was just a little too excited. Christian then hits a reverse DDT. Christian goes for a spear, and Omega V-triggers him in the face, which was that was awesome.
Oh my god, that ruled. Yes.
And then this is where the match got awesome from this point on. So Kenny hits the V-trigger to the face, hits a powerbomb, hits another V-trigger, gets a 2 count. Christian fights out of a one-winged angel. Christian ducks a V-trigger, and Omega ends up V-triggering the turnbuckle. And as he turns around, Christian hits a spear for a near fall. The crowd was eating it up at this point. Omega hits a Snapdragon, and then another one. Christian avoids another V-trigger, and he snaps Omega's neck on the top rope, hits a frog splash for another close near fall. Again, the crowd's going crazy. Dawn distracts the ref, and Omega hits a low blow, and the Bucks come down and slide a chair into the ring. Omega sets it up. He opens it up and just sets it up like a normal chair. He goes for the one-winged angel, but but Christian slips out and hits a kill switch on the open chair, throws the chair out, and Christian pins Kenny Omega. The distraction finish backfires on the heels, and Christian is the new Impact World Champion.
Love this finish so much for so many reasons. Number one, go look. I retweeted it. A gif of it just about an hour or two ago. Look at how, dude, Omega ate that freaking chair. Like this was an awesome bump. He made that shit look deadly.
Yeah, and they did it like they showed a bunch of replays as well. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And in retrospect, and I figured it out as the show was beginning. Like this, I don't think they could have done a more perfect match to open the first edition of Rampage, because you get the first wrestler through the curtain is a guy that if somebody who used to watch wrestling happened to see this, they would recognize and maybe would catch their attention. And then the second guy is the biggest non-WWE wrestling superstar in North America in 2 decades. He's got 4 championship belts, so it immediately looked and felt like this was a happening. This match, I think kind of a lot of us expected the Christian to win. What I did not expect was for them to have a 15-minute singles match with an actual clear result that just made me even more excited to watch them wrestle again in 3 weeks.
I know, and that's what I put in the chat. I'm like, I want to see this match again.
Right, this match was awesome, but pun intended, they did not go all out here.
No, they did not.
So and this just made me eager to see what they're going to do when they have 25 to 30 minutes on a pay-per-view.
Yes, and it showed Christian, he could keep up with Kenny Omega, so that raised my interest in the next match.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. This and little thing we talked about this, the possibility that maybe Kenny is starting to kind of he's starting to slowly lose his mind a little bit, and I am starting to think that part of it is him starting to not trust the one-winged angel. Because we talked about the thing with Dante Martin on Wednesday. Here, he had him, but why did he need a chair? Is it because is it because he's losing confidence? And also, you got to think that hold on. All right, let me gotta get my bearings here to explain, because there's a lot of layers to this finish. Okay, Christian pinned Kenny Omega to win the Impact World title. In doing so, he became only the 3rd person to beat Omega in a sanctioned AEW match, the first one in almost 2 years. But he did it with help from a steel chair, but it was a chair that Omega introduced into the match to try to cheat the win. And also, it was the fact that the probability that something is going to come of, Don Callis or somebody trying to blame this on the Bucks, even though, like, there's no logical reason to blame the Bucks for their role in this, since it was all, presumably Kenny's plan. So, yeah, I love this finish, and I think it'll push the story in some interesting directions. A lot of people were really unhappy about somebody pinning Omega before Hangman does. And now, once I saw what they did here, like, I thought that this was awesome. And I know a lot of people are just, like, certain that he's going to drop the Mega title to Andrade today. I actually don't think so. I fully expect him to keep that belt and to get these belts back at All Out. With, like, a title for title match.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I was okay with them doing the finish here as long as they are saving the most important thing for Hangman, and that is going to be kicking out of the one-winged angel.
Yes. So we will see how that goes.
This match was great.
Yes. Continues on. So at this point, it looks like they're not going to do the bait and switch. We are getting Christian Kenny Omega again at All Out.
Told you.
So after they come back from commercial, Mark Henry has gone to the back. He's talking to Christian. He asks about the AEW championship, and Christian says that winning the Impact championship feels great. And he said, I said I'm going to take Kenny's titles starting with the Impact Championship, and that's what I did. He said that Kenny is one of the toughest guys he's ever been in the ring with, so winning the most important championship in wrestling, the AEW Championship, might be impossible, but I'm living in your head now.
Yeah, I liked that too. Yeah. Nobody noticed or sold at all that Orange Cassidy was just leaning in the background watching during this.
I totally missed it.
Like, how... I didn't hear... Like, nobody in the segment acknowledged it. The announcers didn't acknowledge it. I haven't seen anybody on Twitter acknowledge it. But he was standing, like, just leaning on the wall, watching during this whole interview.
That's funny. No, didn't even notice it. All right, next up we had a Miro and Fuego del Sol promo video. Not much out of it. Fuego has been around for quite a while, and he still hasn't been signed to AEW, and that's about it. And Miro says, I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
So then we had Fuego del Sol versus Miro for the TNT Championship. If Fuego wins, he gets a contract with AEW. Before the bell even rings, Fuego runs in, hits a tornado DDT, and then another one after the bell rings. And then Miro gets sent to the outside. Miro is forced to enter a 10 count, and Del Sol hits another tornado DDT for a 2 count. He then goes up top, and he goes for a crossbody or something, and Miro catches him on his shoulders, hits a Samoan drop, though they're calling it the Bulgarian drop. It had a little more gusto than your typical Samoan drop. And Miro hits the switch kick to the face. I didn't catch what they're calling it.
What's that?
The Moshka kick? What are they calling it now?
Yeah, I think they just called it a kick.
Yeah, so the switch kick to the face, and then stomp to the back, puts on game over, just yanks it all the way back, and Fuego immediately taps out. Miro, post-match, grabs the contract, tears it up, and then offers the belt up to his god.
This was the best 2-minute match I've ever seen.
Yeah, Del Sol hits the DDT. They're talking about, he must have saw in the previous match the DDT is a weakness of Miro, and Miro, did the... he popped up from the second one doing the put up your dukes sell and then fell out of the ring. It was awesome.
Yeah. Miro is the fucking greatest. Like, can you believe that this is the same guy that we were like, what the fuck are they doing with Miro, like, less than a year ago? And he's the greatest now?
Let's see. It was the best match possible to be had between Miro and Fuego. That's from Jay in the chat. It was awesome. When they come back from commercial, Fuego is still in the ring. He's about to leave, and Sammy Guevara's music hits, and Sammy with Tony Khan come out onto the stage. And Tony gives Sammy a clipboard with some papers on him, and Tony goes to the back, but Sammy goes down to the ring and says, "You know, you've been here for like a year, and you may be 1 in 50, and you know you're my best friend, so I'm out here to say that Fuego del Sol is all elite." So this
was just such a wonderful moment.
So they signed. Yep.
And Tony Khan, he gets the Triple H, the Triple H, babyface for signing the guy thing, but he also he lets the babyface wrestler do the actual thing. Like earlier today, I saw it was some kind of meme depicting Tony Khan and Giant Baba, and I'm just like, you know what? That just feels right. The two greatest wrestling promoters of all time.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it's being reported that part was a shoot on Fuego.
Yeah, I immediately was like, dude, I hope that they didn't smart him up, and apparently, yeah, they did not. That was sincere. Considering
that he like started crying and stuff, I'm like, oh, this is definitely a shoot.
That was awesome, and man, Fuego del Sol, Alabama's greatest luchador, man, good for him.
Next up, they showed Sting and Darby hanging out up in the rafters. They promote the Rampage for next week in Chicago and replay the Best in the World promo that he did a couple weeks ago to hype the show.
They did everything they could to tell you that CM Punk is going to be there without ever mentioning CM Punk.
Yeah. They run down the card for Dynamite next week. We already know all this, but Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express for the tag titles. We have the Fifth Labor Jericho versus MJF. Jericho can't use Judas. He can't use the Judas effect. He can't use the music. He has to come out to silence. If he uses the Judas effect, then he loses. Sammy Guevara versus Shawn Spears. And then we have Sting and Darby Allin versus 2.0 in a Texas Tornado match.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited.
Next up, they had a split screen. This was the one part of the show that I think they should have done differently. They had a split screen promo with Mark Henry, Britt Baker, and Red Velvet. The promos were pretty much meh from Red Velvet, and Britt tells her she can stir her shit up somewhere else. This is her championship.
Line.
What?
Love that line. I love that line.
Yeah. It's her championship, her city, and at the end of the night, it will be still AEW Women's Champion Britt Baker, D.M.D. It was a bit rough, and if this was a pre-tape, they should have done it again. If it wasn't a pre-tape, why did you do this live? And second, the sound was totally off. Like, they didn't have the levels correct. So if it was a pre-tape, they should have done it anyways, just because of the sound being incorrect.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I don't disagree. It was not the best.
All right, Red Velvet versus Britt. And this is the type of promo you do the show before the show with the match, not right before the match.
Yeah.
This is not the type of promo you do immediately before the match. So we had Red Velvet challenging Britt Baker for the AEW Women's Championship. Britt has a brace on her wrist because she has a broken wrist. They lock up and Britt tries to go straight to lockjaw, but Red Velvet escapes. They have a bit of a back and forth. At one point, Red Velvet chose not to stomp on Britt's broken hand. But then a few moments later, she decides, oh, screw it, I'm attacking that. Britt hits a back elbow. Red fires back with a leg lariat and standing moonsault for a 2 count. And then Britt stomps Red Velvet in the back. Britt tries a roll-up for a 2 count. Butterfly suplex. Rebel then chokes Red Velvet behind the ref's back a couple times. Red Velvet hits a few strikes and some to the wrist as well. Britt avoids the scissor kick and hits a swinging neckbreaker of her own. Britt goes for lockjaw, but Red Velvet escapes. And then Red decides, screw this, I am tearing the wrist brace off. So she tears off Britt's wrist brace. Rebel jumps up on the apron, so the ref decides I'm throwing the Rebel out, so Rebel gets tossed, and Red Velvet hits a super kick and a moonsault for a 2 count. Britt hit this crazy high angle Yushigoroshi, which looked like it sucked to take. She hits a curb stomp. Red Velvet kicks out. Red Velvet tries to put a lockjaw of her own on, and Britt actually pushes away from the ropes. They roll, and Britt tries to get the lockjaw on, but Red Velvet starts smashing her hand into the mat, and then they roll a little bit. Britt then adjusts the hold so she is basically swap sides so she can use her other hand and gets the submission victory. I thought this was fine. Red Velvet was clearly the heel because Britt Baker was over like Rover in Pittsburgh.
The funny thing is, like, Britt worked completely as a heel. Like,
that too.
In the match, and I was completely fine with that. Like, I don't think that, I think that, like, it largely on the whole, not completely, but largely on the whole, a strict heel babyface split is an outdated concept. But for like the purpose of what this was perfect because Britt was going to be the babyface no matter what, and this was just she was gonna defend the title in her hometown because this is a fucking wrestling company that knows how to make people stars, and it just whatever Britt did, like she could do no wrong. They cheered when Rebel like cheated behind the referee's back.
Yeah.
They booed when the referee ejected Rebel. This was Britt's house, and yeah, I thought that the match was good. It was as good as I expected.
And then we had post-match Britt clearly healing it out here. She continues beating up Red, and she's about to hit the curb stomp on the belt when Chris Statlander jumps into the ring and stops her. But then we get backup for Britt, and it is Jamie Hayter coming back to AEW. She looks so much different than when she was in AEW last time. Her hair color is completely different.
Her.
Yeah, I did not recognize her. Her hair color is completely different. She's lost weight. I put comparison pictures in our chat, and it's like, that doesn't even look like the same person. The only reason you can tell is that the tattoos are the same.
She is shredded.
So Jamie takes out Statlander. The crowd actually booed Statlander when she came in to try to make the save as well.
Yes.
And then Britt still gives Red Velvet the curb stomp on the belt, and that was the end of the show.
Indeed.
So a nice, quick, hour-long show that basically had no dead spots. That little side-by-side, the split screen promo was a little bit meh, but other than that, solid show across the board, and now I am super psyched to see what happens with Omega and Christian, and next week's Rampage is going to be bonkers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, man, I like that. A nice, easy 1 hour show and a nice, easy half-hour review.
Yeah. Anything you want to touch on before we wrap it up? Unfortunately, ratings aren't going to be out till Monday afternoon anyways. And I'm curious, we're going the over-under at 1 million on this show. And then next week, somewhere around 1.2.
Yeah, probably. I think we previewed and discussed everything yesterday. Wrestleism.substack.com. I wrote a very nice Rampage recap, I thought, go along with the Dynamite recap. Planning on doing a full recap of Resurgence, and yeah, that's it.
Hopefully they get the English commentary up on New Japan World quickly. I'm hoping it's just like a few hours after the show is over. I don't know why they're not putting the English live, because they're doing live English commentary on Fight, but not for the world feed.
Yeah, I think they have for some shows, they have like an exclusivity deal with live English broadcasts for Fight, but like not for like
But this would be
Tokyo Dome, the Wrestling Grand Slam. Like, I don't know what the deal, because they did the same thing with the show in London a couple of years ago. Remember?
Did they? Because I know, like, the show that they did in LA that they broadcast on Access, they still had the English commentary on the New Japan World feed. So, yeah, I'm curious how this all works out. But hopefully the English commentary is up, sometime midday tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. Nice quick one because it was a nice quick show, and we'll be back later, probably Monday or Tuesday, recapping Resurgence, and then back again for Dynamite, and back again, on Thursday, and then back again for Rampage on Saturday. So kind of filling up a schedule here here on the podcast, but that's all good. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can follow the links in the show notes for those. You can come hang out in our Discord. The link is in the show notes for that as well. Comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, all that fun stuff. So for Trae, you can find him at Wrestleism on Twitter, and we will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.
Bye.